I went through a loss of my last relationship. She was like the one, and I felt so much pain. So I, like, as a typical guy, would go out, work out. So I was working out, just trying to just get this pain out, just to somewhat relieve itself. Just something it felt inside of me. So I walked in the rain, just fell to my knees, and I just screamed, just tell me my purpose. And at that point, like, I felt like life was just kicking me on the ground. I couldn't get up. But when I said that, I felt this fire I've never felt before. And I got up and I just screamed at life. After everything I've been through, after every woman I loved left, you can't beat me. But in the distance, lightning went off. So I immediately went inside, dried off, and like I was crying my eyes out the entire time. Like, it wasn't easy. After that, I realized that with my book, I'm not only helping other people with their pain, I'm helping myself as well.
Let's impact some men today. I think we're gonna do a great job.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Modern Man Podcast, where we connect men in pursuit of their potential. I encourage you to join us as we embrace discomfort, cultivate community, and put wind in each other's sails. Now, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. And also to the men listening, I encourage you to check out the Noble Knights Men's Community, where you will find the support, accountability, and mentorship you need to achieve your goals. Join us and become a part of a community of like-minded men on a mission to improve themselves and elevate their capacity for life. I'm excited because we're going to get some wind in our sails today from my guest, who is an author, motivational speaker, and advocate for resilience and intentional living. He's the author of the book Unbroken, Turning Pain into Purpose. It's a pleasure to have Juan Espinoza on the podcast. Juan, thanks for taking the time, man.
Thank you so much for having me. I love to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to have you. And I like to start my episode with stepping out of the way and letting the guest and the audience get acquainted. So really quick, take the podcast. It belongs to you. Speak to the audience about who you are, what you do, or how you introduce yourself when you enter a room. And then we can jump into the conversation afterwards.
So for who I am, it's just author, speaker, also pain motivator. I like to make people address their pain directly. So we'll talk. I'm also a veteran and a father. So that's how I really introduce myself. I just want to break the ice and know I'm pretty relatable, not just with, certain just men, but females as well. We all go through pain, and I like to have people talk about it, because the minute you talk about it, it no longer holds power over you.
Yeah, kind of like you can't heal what you don't reveal, and if you avoid talking about it, it still runs your life in a way, right? Even the things you avoid steer you in a direction. So let's jump right into it. The addressing the pain directly. Uh, why is it important to address the pain directly? Like, what is your approach to that?
So my approach, I've learned from experience being, a veteran. I've served 5 years overseas, 4 in Afghanistan. I've been a father. I've had a marriage, divorce. There was an affair in that issue, and I buried those things for a lot of years. But I realized the pain doesn't work like that. It needs to be felt, and you can bury it for so long. Eventually, it's going to seep through the cracks. But when you face it head on and think pain is a teacher, what is it teaching me? That's when you actually find out that purpose of that pain and, the value that it's giving you.
So when you talk about pain needing to be felt, it first starts with the fact that so many of us avoid pain. And in essence, sometimes the avoidance of pain can cause more problems than the pain itself, right? And there's a famous quote: "We suffer more in our imagination than we do in reality." What is it we're avoiding from that pain? Because I have worked with other guys before where and thank you for your service, by the way. Being veterans themselves, they would rather go back to combat than face their pain. And it's a curious situation to be in, because one presents real world danger, the other not so much. So what is it that we're running away from and avoiding so much?
It's feeling hurt. It's feeling vulnerable. That's what it is. As a man, we don't want to feel weak, right? You want to have the strength and power. So from a male's perspective, we don't want to show that sign of weakness, which I think is a catch 22, right? It's good, but also it's going to hurt you in the long run if you don't address it head on, and also break the cycle for the next generations to know it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to feel weak at times. It's okay to need help. I think that's what we're running away from.
How do we navigate that catch 22? Because I know there's a lot of guys listening, and we speak vulnerability a lot on the podcast, right? How do you navigate the balance of vulnerable and strong? How do you navigate that balance of the framing in which maybe your family looks up to you and you are the rock, and you say, I can't afford to show the weakness to those who depend on me, but I don't know where else to go. How do you navigate those environments?
So with war, either in Afghanistan, in a relationship, or within ourselves, it happens when we don't talk. That's just how it happens. So if you actually talk about it with the people your tribe, the people you're comfortable with, to know, like, I have my mistakes in my past, like I'm hurting, I might need some help. You're being vulnerable with them, but it also gives them value too. Like, this person trusts me enough to express that weakness. I think that's what we need to do in order to impact our generation as well the future generation, like to know it's okay to actually seek out help when you need it.
So much so having, for example, the history of strength already established, but the vulnerability shows that I am strong, but comfortable enough to let you know, hey, bro, I need help, or I'm not okay with something that happened, and I just need to talk it through, right? So you have that history of like, man, Ted, he's the man. He holds it down. But like when he says, "I need your help," like ding, 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 like he's not joking. It's something serious. It's kind of like letting them know, like, man, when I need you, I need you. If I don't, I don't. Type thing. That balance between the two.
Exactly. I think that's the big thing, is when you actually show that history of strength of, I hold it down, but also the strength of actually asking for help. That takes a lot. It takes a lot of courage, because you're being vulnerable and you're weak at the time. But when people see that, they gravitate towards that. They're like, okay, like, he's not only strong on holding it down on the normal things, but also he's okay to being himself, being authentic. I think we need to
Mm,
do that in order to empower, everybody around us, including ourselves as well.
yeah, a huge empowering position to be in. That now with your journey taking you from combat deployments, personal loss, and then writing the book Unbroken to inspire others. What was the defining moment that led you to turn your pain into purpose? You mentioned avoiding it for so long, pain needing to be felt. What led you to make that switch of turning your pain into purpose for others?
So with my book, for context, a lot of people would ask, like, I didn't know, like, you're writing a book. I was like, I didn't know I was writing a book. It was in December, actually, beginning of December. I went through a loss of my last relationship. She was like the one, she was, you know, that one. And I was just doing some work, and I was just hurt. Just I felt so much pain. So I, like, as a typical guy, we go out, work out. At this night, it was in my backyard. There's like an awning, so like it was raining. So like that light rain was hitting that, that the metal. So you hear like that tink tink noise, right? So I was working out, just trying to just get this pain out, just to somewhat relieve itself. And just something felt inside of me. I just said, walk in the rain. So I walked in the rain, just fell to my knees, and I just screamed, just tell me my purpose. And at that point, like, I felt like life was just kicking me on the ground. I couldn't get up. But when I said that, I felt this fire I've never felt before. And I got up and I just screamed at life. After everything I've been through, after everything I've lost, after every woman I loved left, you can't beat me. And in the distance, sounds majestic, but in the distance, lightning went off. So I immediately went inside, dried off, and grabbed a bottle of whiskey, and I started writing my book for 2 days. And like I
In
was
that
crying my
moment?
eyes out the entire time. Like it wasn't easy. But after that, I realized that with my book, I'm not only helping other people with their pain, I'm helping myself as well.
So those 2 days, what'd you uncover writing the
So
book?
I uncovered that all the trauma that I was hiding, like it's my life, but I realized that pain is a teacher. What is it teaching me? So I shift my perspective and looked at everything from an outside perspective. Okay, like what can I learn from this situation? Through my deployments, my marriage, relationships, losing my mother, losing my brothers. What were they teaching me? Like, what's really my purpose? So when I did that, that's when actually it became empowering to me to help other people address the pain head on.
What did your pain teach you, man?
It taught me to be myself. Everything I've been through, just with the good times and the bad times. Yeah, end of the day, we're just ourselves. You don't need to be somebody else or fit somebody else's mold. You have to just be yourself 100%. Some things, life's not fair. We know that. But when you're yourself, it's not so bad to think twice. Like, okay, well, I tried. You
Yeah,
can't
yeah, yeah.
beat yourself up about that.
Yeah, wholeheartedly being yourself. What lessons did you learn in the military that helped shape your resilience, your self awareness, and your ability to navigate that pain, turning it into purpose? So, what skills or foundational traits did you get from the military that helped you in this process?
Some skills I learned was actually a big driving point of what I do. It's that no quit mentality. So I call it a warpath in my book. And a lot of people think it's, very aggressive or military approach, but it's really not. It's basically committing to something with everything you have, and failure isn't an option. A lot of the missions I've been on, when I was in the military, you can't really fail because your brothers next to you, they depend on you. Their families depend on you. So quitting is not really an option. So I think pushing beyond what I thought was capable, there's a lot of times where I just like, I can't do this anymore. Then I just take an extra step, take an extra two
Hmm.
steps, and then realize, okay, well, I can do this. So that mentality I've shaped to do what I do and just learn that that's who I am naturally.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of why I do what I do.
Yeah, you said a couple times pain being a teacher, and a couple episodes ago, um, I first heard and we first discussed the concept of post traumatic growth. And it's a research study that was released in the Journal of Positive Psychology in 2019. And it highlights how individuals who experience significant adversity can develop greater personal strength, appreciation for life, and a stronger sense of purpose when they actively engage in meaning making processes, right? Meaning that the adversity, the post traumatic growth, can actually lead to a positive thing. You mentioned how pain is a teacher, and you navigate that with others, right? You really quickly help them face their pain. Uh, what is it about pain that, when embraced by more, can propel them forward? What is it that we're missing the lesson from? And when it comes to pain being that teacher?
I think the big thing that we gain from addressing pain as a teacher, I always say this, and I was speaking with my daughter probably about a week ago, and I mentioned this to her, and I say, what we do in good times matters, but what we do in bad times matters the most. And I address that. So how many times has your parents, has a spouse done something good for you that you actually remember? You probably can't count, but I guarantee you can remember how
Mhm.
many times they yell at you or they threw something at you or they hit you. You can remember those off the top of your hand. So I think that's important that in those troubled times, pain is very powerful. So when you actually look at that from a different perspective, you'd be like, okay, like what was it trying to, how was it trying to build me? It wasn't trying to break me, but how was it trying to build me? So when it's just, to me, it's just more of a perspective shift.
Yeah. Speaking of this perspective shift, this is the Modern Man podcast, right? and a lot of it is just talking about how we approach just being men in today's society. So, how would you define being a modern man in today's world, and how does that differ from, I guess, the traditional masculinity that so many might have been used to?
I think the big thing is to know your capabilities and to actually, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. You be the guy where if I have to go to war tomorrow to perfect my family, awesome, let's go. But also at the same time, is if my spouse or my kids need someone to talk to and they need to be feel vulnerable, I'm there as well. And I can share insights with them. I think having that balance between being aggressive but also being empathetic, I think that's key to what we need to do to actually progress as men today. A lot of men just want to be like, well, I'm the biggest guy in the gym, or I'm the loudest one in the room, or I dress the best. But there's also the empathy side that we're lacking. But if we show that, we can actually empower ourselves as men in the future.
Men need range. That's what I always say. I'm the type kind of guy. Yes, I'll grab the 120 dumbbells, push them off my chest in the gym and make a lot of noise, but I'm gonna come home and best believe I'm drinking tea with my daughter at the tea party with my pinky out and I'm wearing pink. What's up? So men need range from A all the way to Z. Um, you emphasize the importance of accountability. How can men take full ownership of their struggles when they're feeling weighed down, or when that pain starts to creep up, maybe that they've been avoiding, and in a moment like you mentioned, going to walk in the rain? Um, what also could men do to help them pick up the phone to reach out, or even have the courage to say out loud, like, "Bro, I need help"?
I think a big thing is genuinely looking in the mirror and realizing, what did you do right, but also what did you do wrong. Like, you got to face it. Like, with your relationships, they didn't work out. Like, maybe you did everything right, but also there's things you're doing wrong because it didn't work out, right? You maybe the wrong person, or you maybe did the wrong thing, or you weren't stepping up to the plate. And I think for me, that's what I did with my last relationship. I realized, okay, I did everything right on this aspect, but I was failing on this aspect. And just being honest with yourself, like, it's okay to be vulnerable. I think that's a very empowering thing, is when you actually embrace your full self and ask for help. Some people might judge you on that, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, you're very authentic to yourself and you're being yourself. That's all that matters.
If iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. But if you're a man and you're alone or listening to this, then who sharpens you? What's going on, guys? Ted Payton here, host of the Modern Man Podcast, also founder of the Noble Knights Mastermind Group. And I'm just out here encouraging you to find your circle. Maybe you're on a personal growth journey and nobody around you understands the new mentality that you're possessing. That's okay. You can find an online community that will pour into you, will navigate your goals and navigate your obstacles, share their experiences, resources, and more. Join the Noble Knights Mastermind Group and try us out for free to tap into a community of men helping each other scale up and reach their goals.
Check out themodernmanpodcast.com. After you finished writing your book and you're starting to share it and you see the impact that it can have, how long did it take from the thick of your pain to transition into that purpose? I imagine it wasn't a snap of the finger. I imagine it wasn't, I wrote the book, oh, I'm good, I feel great now. I imagine there was a process along the way from walking in the rain, uh, shouting that life can't break you, whiskey, writing the books. 2 days later, it's done. And then what's the lag time before you started really understanding, like, oh man, this is working for me?
So that's just going to be something just in life in general. You're going to be addressing these things throughout your life. That's just how it is. But when you look at it from a different perspective, it's not so bad. For me, when I wrote my book, I felt like, I went to therapy like one session before. Didn't really like it because it was like someone that know me, and just like, it's a very surface level talk. So when I actually wrote my book, and I always encourage everybody to write down your pain, like head on. You don't have to show anybody. You could burn it. You don't have to share the world. It felt like 100 therapy sessions in 2 days. It was that heavy. And there was a point where I didn't think I'd keep going, but I kept going. But I think like now I still address things, but it doesn't have that power over me like it did before.
Yeah. And relinquishing that power that it has over you allows you to be more of your authentic self, right? Kind of taking the weight off your shoulders, operating in a more you sense, and being okay with it. And that kind of like helps to ease up and push you forward even more. Speaking of vulnerability, a 2020 study in Frontiers in Psychology found that men who embrace vulnerability and emotional intelligence demonstrate higher leadership effectiveness and stronger social connections. So again, there's proof and data that shows being vulnerable improves our connections. Yet for a lot of us, men are often told to toughen up and suppress their emotions. So how can vulnerability actually enhance strength and lead to more impactful leadership for anyone that's a manager, any C-suite executives that listen to this podcast, anyone higher up in their business? How can that vulnerability piece help them be more effective as leaders?
The big thing is expressing that you're flawed. In a lot of leadership positions, with the military or outside, we don't want to show that, we're weak or we have any flaws. But the minute you do that, people open up and they actually gravitate towards that and allows them to open up. That builds trust with business, but also relationships. It's the same exact way. For example, probably about 2 weeks ago, my aunt came over and she's very like, I'm Hispanic, so we don't share feelings. We don't share weakness, right? That's how we are. She's a very like church going type for been longer than I can remember. And we're talking about how I wrote my book. And I looked at her and I asked her, what's your pain? And I could see her eyes just swell up. And she basically started telling me her pain. And after that, we talked throughout the evening, throughout the night. And I asked her, I was like, why did you cry? And she told me, like, the minute you said that, I felt like weight was lifting off my shoulders and I can express myself. And when she was leaving, she told me, you're an angel we never knew we needed. And I think that's the fact that if we can open up to our subordinates and show the good things and the bad things, we can build a trust within our team and our company to know that we have their back at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's the armor with vulnerabilities. I say it over and over again. And we as men, we put on a clean suit of armor, but the clean suit of armor has never been to battle. And it's the guy in the armor who's all beat up and bruised, and there's all the vulnerabilities, but he's still standing. That's who I want to learn from. It's like, bro, how'd you survive the battle? Because you're still here. You're beat up, but you're still here. And I can say firsthand, there's like 8 of them out here, and I'm taking hits too. So I'm asking for help for how you survive this thing. That's what I think of when we link in vulnerability and leadership. It's like, hey, bro, the hits you're taking, I've taken that. I've taken more hits than you've thrown. So I could tell you a thing or two about a thing or two. Uh, what are some small daily practices that anybody that's listening, any guys who are listening to the podcast, like, I've been avoiding my pain, or I haven't gotten there yet. I have a group of friends, but we don't talk about feelings. We just talk about the game. And, though I have a phone full of contacts, I have nobody to call if shit gets real, right? What are some daily practices or routines that some guys can adopt and start doing today that can help them better express their vulnerability or their pain to a close friend?
The big thing I would recommend is people to journal. Granted, I've never been I didn't never journal myself. That's why I wrote my book. But we write it down every day, what you're going through, what you have planned for that day, and what's your outcome you're looking for. And maybe beginning or at the nighttime, discuss the good and the bad. What pain did you have today? Well, I can reach out to my friend because I feel weak. Why? Right? Ask yourself those hard questions to actually know more about yourself. In order to actually genuinely know about somebody, you have to ask hard questions. And I encourage everybody to do that with themselves and to reach out to those people and just maybe go have a beer, right? Talk about life, but also bring up the concept of vulnerability, gauge how they are. Once you do that, you can actually see if that person is actually there for you on the long end or the short end. If they're there for you on the short end, that's okay. Just understand that. But also just look in that mirror and just be like, okay, well, are you broken or are you unbroken? That's your choice.
What does it mean to be unbroken?
Unbroken means that after all the flaws you have, you're still standing. And it's a mentality shift. A lot of people say people are broken because, when you think of some breaks, it never goes back together. But unbroken means it might have cracked, but it's still holding.
Yeah. All the king's horses and all the king's men. This ain't Humpty Dumpty. So what's next for you? You finished writing the book. You're sharing it with others. What's that process been like, and where do you expect to take it?
So it's been pretty surreal, I would say. Honestly, I think it's the big thing. Like my book barely came out end of December. I have over like 200 book sales right now, and people are reaching out to me just saying how impactful it is. I have 23, actually 22 podcasts booked. I have 30 pending. I have 2 speaking engagements. I got one later tonight, actually. And I'm launching a clothing brand to emphasize my brand that I think a lot of people can resonate with. It's just putting, clothes on that has a little short message, unbroken, turn your pain to purpose. Look at that and change your perspective on life and change your pain and shift it to purpose. I think that's what I'm doing now. Just keep talking to as many people as I can. A lot of people reach out to me and I'll have a conversation with them, or if they're in, my area, like, let's go have a beer, just male or female. And I had one person reach out to me and they basically said they're tired of being the same way they are because they've been bearing this pain. I was like, do you drink? And she was like, yeah. Okay, let's go have a drink because you're probably going to need it. But we're going to get to the bottom of it. And I'm always there just to reach out to, talk with anybody to help address their pain.
Yeah. What you're touching on is, camaraderie, connection, brotherhood, community. What so many of us strive and really yearn for is not only having the ability to address our pain, having a safe place in order to sit in it, and also a trusted community, friendship, or friend or spouse who will sit there with us. And it's not even a solution to the problem, but just the simple fact of knowing we're not alone is just a massive game changer in our ability to be resilient in that pain, our ability to withstand the storm and sit through it, because no storm lasts forever, and neither does any break in the storm, right? It's either raining, you're coming out of the rain, or you're heading into the rain. Those are the only 3 constants that we have. And depending on where you find yourself, you might be dry, but you just know that, hey, the storm is sure to come back. For anybody who's in the thick of their storm, Juan, anybody who might be going through it themselves, how can folks reach out, connect, get your book, and find out more of the speaking engagements and some of the other podcasts that you'll be on?
So I have my website. It's juanespinoza.me. If you go to that, my book's on there. The 2 podcasts that are actually live are on there as well. I do have contact information. It's a little contact form. Just put what you want to talk about, send it to me. It comes directly to me. I have my business number on there as well. I'm always there to reach out to anybody and everybody. So with that, all the podcasts that are live, either on YouTube or Spotify, I'll put that on my website as well. So that's the best way to get a hold of me. So I think that's just connecting with people personally, knowing like you're not getting an automated machine. It's come to me. And when I send it to you, it's from me.
Yeah, good to know. This ain't AI. This is real, Juan. I'll have the links in the show notes below for folks to reach out, connect with you, and get those details as well. Last question is usually the heaviest one, which is why I save it for last. And if it's something that you alluded to, touched on, certainly you could revisit any of that, or if it's something new that works well. But the last question is, what is something that you've seen or something that's happened to you that shapes the way you view the world as a man?
I think a big thing is having the older generation, uncles, dad, uh, grandparents, when you talk to them and then actually break down and share their pain, knowing that was very impactful for me, knowing that, okay, I'm not just doing this for the younger generation, my generation, but also I'm affecting the older generation as well. I'm trying to bridge that gap between, the people I've looked up to that didn't really show that emotion, but when I actually share my story and I connect with them, they're sharing theirs. To me, that's very impactful. It takes a lot to open up. And when they do, that definitely affected me in a great way of knowing that I'm doing something good.
Yeah, it's amazing to think that we look up to our elders, right? Our parents and aunts and uncles, but being able to just be that safe place, that vessel, that hold that container, um, just you see how much they've needed it for so long, and that's man, Juan, that's literally changing the generational habits and traditions, right? Or the quote unquote generational curses that have plagued so many families. Is being the son of two immigrants. My mom and dad, they're like, therapist. What do you need a therapist for, right? It doesn't it doesn't add up to them. But in order to sit with them and something as small as, hey, Dad, I want to let you know I appreciate you for everything you've done for us, and I see you, or even sitting down and, hey, Dad, talk to me. I don't want anything. Just what are you feeling? And those areas, they're just not used to it, but you lovingly force it upon them, and you see how quickly it's embraced and how quickly it's adopted, which shows how much it was needed. So I'll be sure to have that again in the show notes for the links for anybody to reach out, connect with you. Author, motivational speaker, and advocate for resilience and intentional living, Juan Espinoza. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, brother.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm going to share some of the gems you left along the way really quick as we wrap up, just because I know a lot of folks while listening, they're driving, they're working out, or maybe cleaning around the house, which go ahead and do one more once over on that kitchen counter. You missed a spot over there. But address pain directly. So many of us live our lives avoiding the pain that we are afraid to feel, and in essence get controlled by that pain, which can in essence cause more pain than what we originally would have faced. Huh. Did you keep up
Uh,
with me?
yeah, I think that's a big thing. Really, is just we don't want to be weak, and we don't want to be like this weak man that cries or whatever. But a big thing for me, like probably a couple years back, and like where I deployed in 2010, 2011. I was 18 at the time, heart of the war, just heavy stuff. But the documentaries, there's a few documentaries that came out, and I watched one because my buddy I was in base training with died, and then I watched another one where another buddy that I serve with that's actually in my book, which I don't list his name, but he died as well. So the first one, I watched it. I didn't watch it for a few years after it came out because I was like, I don't know if I can handle that. So me and my dad, we watched it. We had some beers, and at one point it was like heavy. Like I just went outside and just started bawling. And my dad came up to me, gave me a hug, and then he realized like, damn, like you're going through a lot. So actually showing that, okay, well, this guy's been through like this much. If he could talk about it, then I could talk about what I'm going through.
That's amazing. And that's leadership. What you just
Mm.
described there is leadership. And that's the history of strength, as we mentioned, and being able to display that vulnerability in the moment has led your father to understanding he can do the same with you. So leading by leadership and facing the pain directly. Uh, Pain needs to be felt because pain is a teacher. Vulnerability shows strength, not weakness, as we've been unfortunately so conditioned to adopt. I couldn't get up. I wrote that because it stuck out. You said you couldn't get up. And I wrote that down because it's not the first time I've heard a man say that. And it might be something that someone listening could relate to. For some reason, the weight of the world, the weight of the life that you're living seems so heavy, it's hard to get up. But again, that pain is your teacher. If you can't get up, reach for the phone. Call that 3 a.m. friend that you have in your phone. Commit with everything you have. That's how you lean into your purpose. And then what we do in bad times matters more than what we do in good times. It's easy. It's easy to do what you're supposed to do in good times. Your character gets revealed in the adversity and in the hard times. Men need range. Again, be the warrior in the garden, not the gardener in the war. And then look in the mirror, be honest, write down your pain, and then find your brotherhood in your community and your safe place to show that vulnerability. Juan, thank you again for an amazing episode. To the audience, thank you so much for making it to the end. We appreciate you. You know, I'm going to ask that you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this podcast with somebody else you know can get value from it as well. It means the world to us. And also, I'm going to ask that you leave us a rating to let us know how we're doing, because the only way we improve is from your input. And when you leave us a rating, it really helps us out too. And the algorithm, Apple loves it, YouTube loves it, Spotify loves it, and I love you for leaving us a rating. With that being said, guys, as I always say at the end of the episode, everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the pleasure without first the pain. Let's grow.